second place, and that was the Miami Dolphins, man. The Dolphins came in second place last year. They had an up and down season, to say the least. It all fell apart when Tua fell apart. Tua started out great, like what was the first game, second game got hurt, and even got hurt again later on. It really comes down, and I hate to say it, and I hate to be that same person that's always going on the same thing, but it comes down to Tua. I think that this season is really big for Miami because they gave him that extension. I think Mike McDaniel, if he has another lackluster season as they had last year, he could be on his way out. And there's a lot of people have been speculating if he's too friendly with the players, if he's, what's your thoughts on McDaniel and the Dolphins, man?
I mean, like you said it well. On offense, it is, unfortunately, it depends on Tua. And they've kind of just put themselves in the situation where, again, I'm not taking anything away from him. I think he's a great quarterback, but it's just he's so injury prone. He is the definition of a glass cannon. So it's one of those things where if you know that he's this fragile, you have to do a good job of keeping him upright, making sure he doesn't get hit. And it's just the reality of the situation you're in. Fortunately, they did draft an offensive lineman in the second round of the draft this year. So that was a good pick, good, potential blindside blocker for them. But yeah, it's either him or if he gets hurt, you're going to rely on Zach Wilson pretty much as your backup. So, and I know that there was obviously all the hype around Zach Wilson years ago, but that's pretty much the situation you backed yourself into. Now, I will say defensively, I like their pick of getting Kenneth Grant from Michigan, big chunky boy, filling up the middle of that defensive line there. I think that does help one of their, I guess, weak spots, you could say, was kind of that front seven on defense. But yeah, I mean, for better or worse, this team has pretty much hitched their wagon to, not to steal from Buffalo's slogan right there, but they pretty much hitched their wagon to Tua Tagovailoa. And this team is going to go where he goes this year.
Yeah, I mean, just a little bit of history on the Dolphins going back last season. It's the numbers for offense just kind of blew my mind in this one. They averaged passing yards 219.8, which was 15th in the league. Rushing yards was 105.6. Points for was 20.3, which was 22nd in the league. Points against was 21.4, which was 10th in the league. Miami got their reputation for being speed and going down the field. And last season, it was just not there at all. Tyreek had that. He was saying he had a wrist injury since that whole police incident that happened. It just didn't look the same as what their offense was. And obviously that goes back to Tua not being there. But even when Tua came back, they were so scared to push the ball down the field that they just were dinking and dunking to Jonnu Smith, which also got lost as well. He went to Pittsburgh in that trade that they made. Yep. I find the Miami Dolphins a very puzzling team. I'm interested to see what they're going to do now that Jonnu Smith is gone. Are they going to go back to their high-powered offense now that they're going to have to move it down the field? Darrell Waller came out of retirement. He wasn't doing all that great whenever he did retire, but he did choose to come to Miami. He wanted to go there, made the trade, and got there. I don't know if he's the same as Jonnu Smith is at this point in time. If they're going to do that, just the classic little dink and dunk passes. I think they need to open it up. You have two of the fastest players in the league. You can't play scared that Tua is always going to get hurt. I think that's what they were doing last year. And if that's how they're going to play, then they need to make sure they have a great backup quarterback. And I don't know why. That's something else that's bothering me about the Dolphins. I don't know why they haven't invested legit good money on a backup quarterback because you
draft for it.
Draft, right. They draft. Now, they did draft Quentin Ewers, which I do think Quentin Ewers isn't a bad quarterback at all. They got him late in the draft, so I think that's a pretty decent pickup for them. I just don't know if you're really going to – if it's going to move the needle as far as them getting any more wins and losses if Quentin Ewers has to come in. I am very surprised that they haven't gone after another high-profile backup, though, considering that Tua has always had his injury history. What would you do in that situation? Would you go after pay somebody a little bit extra to be your backup? Because it happens every year and they just fall apart.
I mean, I think in this situation, you don't necessarily want to go after another. You don't want to spend necessarily a lot of money on a high-end backup that's already playing in the league like a veteran. I think that it is smart to go with the draft right now. Quinn Ewers, I'm not exactly sold on. I feel like he might be a little overrated. I don't know. I was just never really sold on him. I'm not even necessarily particularly sold 100% on Arch Manning either. So I'm maybe just that critical of Texas quarterbacks right now. But I do think that the option here is to draft just because you give that person a little bit more time. You give them a little bit more time to learn, to grow, and develop. And you're not sending the message necessarily to like, oh my gosh, you're getting replaced right now, or you're spending so much more money. The draft is just a cheaper option, I think, for that kind of move. And yeah, as far as Darren Waller, though, too, coming out of retirement, I don't see this quite having the impact that Rob Gronkowski coming out of retirement for the Bucks necessarily was going to be. So I don't think this move will quite work out like I think the Dolphins are expected to do. And again, you've got Tyreek. Hopefully, the wrist injury was just a freak thing and he comes back 100%. But yeah, it's pretty much it's him and Waddle. If those guys don't help Tua carry the offense, it's going to be I think another struggle this year for sure. And if Tua gets hurt, you might be seeing Zach Wilson, and if Zach Wilson doesn't live up to hype, you might be seeing Quinn Ewers as early as probably the second half of this season.
Yeah, I hope to, obviously, because you want to have all good quarterbacks in the league. And I do personally think that Tua is a good quarterback. It's just unfortunate that he's gone through all his injury issues. I'm not going to totally dog the Dolphins in this one either. I do like them picking up Ollie Gordon in the 6th round. I believe it was, but it was 6th round. Yeah, 6th round. He was projected, 2 years ago to be the top back in the league. He had a huge downfall of a season last year. He just did not look the same. But I think getting him that late in the draft was a steal for the Dolphins, man, because they also have Devon Achane, who's lightning fast. They got Wright, I believe his last name as well, so they haven't really got a chance to see him very much. Raheem Mostert's gone. But I really like getting Gordon out of there. I think he's got the size and he's got an elusiveness to him. Hell of a good amount of speed. I am surprised he fell all the way to the 6th round, though. That guy was extremely highly touted going 2 years ago, and he never had a good season last year. So I will give them a lot of credit for landing that running back pick. A spot that they're all about speed, and if you can have if your offense is going to be based on that, the more fast people you have, the better off you're probably going to be.
Yeah.